Hey everyone, author Rhyelle here, and in today's special video I decided that I'd be drawing some of my characters, or I guess the main characters in the first volume of Asphariens Guardians of the Elements as chibis, which is basically just a more cuter form, whereas I would normally draw them a little bit semi-realistic. So this is kind of just a fun little project that I put together and decided to show you guys. And yes, I am aware that this video is not in the landscape mode as it would normally be here on YouTube, but I accidentally recorded the whole thing like this, so you're going to have to stick with me. Plus, I think this is a pretty nicer angle. So before we get into it, Asphariens Guardians of the Elements is a story about how Rhyelle, the protagonist, and a few of her friends have to go on this journey across the world Elenar in order to find 13 elemental crystals to save the world from monsters known as Aurelias. So the character that I'm currently drawing is Aki. He is a close friend to Rhyelle. He really likes food, and I'm not going to spoil too much, but in the society that they live in, he doesn't exactly know what his elemental power is, but he's a pretty easygoing guy and quite likable. He does sometimes annoy Evan and Willow though with his constant questions. Next up, we have Kiera, who is more of the hard-headed one of the group. I'd say that you would probably see her annoying in the first few chapters, but trust me, keep reading because you'll probably grow to love her character just as I have. So Kiera is again one of Rhyelle's more closest friends, mainly due to the fact that they both go to the same school, which is the school of Asphariens, and they are pretty close friends later on. So Kiera's hobbies is that she really likes to kind of be in her own space, which isn't exactly a hobby, but she does have the elemental power of earth and is apparently regarded as a pretty strong user of it, which means that she's able to manipulate it in ways that people aren't. She gets annoyed pretty easily and isn't afraid to speak her mind, which is why I drew her with this kind of mad face expression. Oftentimes she's normally bickering with Aki and telling him to shut up and etc., but it's a form of friendship, I guess. So now that we're a few minutes into this video, I should probably tell you guys a little bit more about the power system of Asphariens. So basically in Asphariens Guardians of the Elements, as the title says, Guardians of the Elements, every human on Elenar, which is essentially their earth, humans have elemental powers, and it corresponds like water, fire, earth, and air, but there are also some irregular ones like manipulation, sound, moonlight, eternity. Now what you really have to know is that the two strongest elemental powers of all are eternity and infinity, which kind of makes sense because you're able to control time and etc. And you would gain your elemental power at the age of 14. For those who haven't gotten their elemental power yet, it's not irregular, it just means they're a late bloomer. So now we're moving on to one of my favorite characters, which is Rhyelle, the protagonist. She is a part of this trio, as I've mentioned before. She has known Aki and Kiera for the longest, since they go to the school of Asphariens before certain events happened. Once again, not to spoil, but she's normally stopping Aki and Kiera from bickering all the time and is pretty easily annoyed by their bickering. I'd say that she's not super sarcastic, but she does have a strong sense of right or wrong. She's able to be perceptive at times where others aren't, and she's also pretty quick at understanding things that I guess would take a while to understand, which is why I decided to draw her hands, or I guess circle hands, since I'm trying to make this a little bit more simple so that this video doesn't take up too much time. But I'm drawing her hands this way, kind of upwards, as if she's like trying to stop Aki and Kiera from fighting, because basically what I'm trying to showcase here is that Aki took Kiera's burger and now Kiera is angry and Rhyelle's trying to like calm them down. So here is the full character. I tried drawing her in a normal outfit, but a little bit more simplified, and now I'm just going to write her name. And by the way guys, ignore the eraser, it was kind of the only one I had left, and I don't know what happened. I threw it in my pencil case one day and it came out looking like this. Also, sorry for the shaking camera. Once again, this is kind of one of my newer videos adding to YouTube, and I'm just trying to make it as best as I can. So I would really appreciate it if you guys could subscribe. But now, since we have our main trio, Aki, Kiera, and Rhyelle, we can move on to some more important characters, starting with Evan. I kind of sped up with this drawing a bit since I did struggle a little bit on his features, but Evan isn't, this isn't really a super big spoiler since it's kind of in the first few pages, but he is the guardian of the elemental power of darkness, which is kind of weird considering how in the legends all guardians of elements, Asphariens, hence the name, have died due to a crazy war that happened 500 years ago. So it's kind of strange how he's still alive, but those questions are answered a little bit later in the novel. So Rhyelle joins Evan and his partner Willow, which I'll get onto a little bit later, to help them find the 13 elemental crystals. And that's how kind of Aki and Kira tag along, because they're also curious and they want to save their families from this danger. So this is Evan. I drew him with kind of a pointed face and a little bit broody because he is a bit emo, not to a crazy extent, but just enough because he's seen quite a bit of things that would make a normal man go mad. Now we're moving on to the cheerful Willow, who is the guardian of the elemental power of light. Once again, she shouldn't really be alive since the war that happened 500 years ago supposedly killed all the Asphariens, but that answer will be saved for another time, I guess. So I'm drawing her with kind of rounder eyes, even though in the novel she's described as having feline eyes. I'm assuming that in this emotion, since it's chibi and things are a bit exaggerated, you can really see kind of the sparkle and her big beady eyes, because she's normally a happy character. She's the mother of the group, I'd say. She is Evan's closest and so far only friend that's left. She does really enjoy touring around the city of Centauria, because since they are kind of a little bit behind in this time, it took them a while to adjust to some things. Once again, I know this is kind of confusing, but if you read Asphariens, not only is it an incredible story, but it'll also definitely enlighten you more on kind of the story and what's going on. So back to the eyeballs. I did struggle a little bit with this, but I ended up finding kind of a nice shape that looks a little bit weird when this zoomed in, but as we back away a little bit, it looks nice, so it's still a win for me. Like I was saying, Willow is very kind-hearted, but she is also regarded as one of the strongest guardians of the elements. So even though she does seem to be this cute little nice girl, it doesn't necessarily mean that she's weak. Quite the contrary. Speaking of which, I don't really know why her hair looks like it's up in a ponytail, because it's not supposed to be up in a ponytail. It's literally just supposed to be down and curly, and like it's not really working. But I'm trying my best here, and I guess I could have looked at references, but I just didn't feel like it, you know? So even if her hair looks like it's up in a ponytail, it's not. So let's just pretend like it's down. As you can see, I kind of fixed it a little bit, but I don't know. It's still giving me the impression like it's in a ponytail. I think I just need to focus on something else. So anyway, now I'm drawing her in kind of her civilian outfit, because the Asphariens, when they have their elemental crystals, their outfits transform into these heavy armors. Think of it as kind of magical girl, but not so magical girl, because I'd still kind of keep it in the shonen type of section. But anyway, I'm trying to draw her with a little bit more of a simpler outfit. This isn't exactly her official outfit that she wears, but it's just one of the many that I have saved in my sketchbook that I decided to redraw. Now, as I'm sketching out Willow's little dress, let me take this quick moment to kind of explain how the School of Asphariens works. So basically, it's a high school Americanized, which means from 9th grade to 12th grade, and basically the people that go to the school or attend the school are basically striving to gain elemental powers and learn more about them. Of course, you have your regular classes like math, science, English, maybe even French too, etc. But the ultimate goal is to be able to develop one's elemental power. And it's not a super prestigious school. I mean, it is very prestigious, but it's not like you have to be the best of the best to get in there. You just have to know certain criteria, which may be a little bit hard for some. All right, so now let's get back to the character analysis, I mean drawings in chibi form. We're going to go with Frey, which is a character that's a little bit more towards the end of the first volume. How we first met him is that he fell from the sky. That's all I'm going to say. He's not an angel per se, but it is a pretty interesting way that the crew discovers them. So basically, I'm drawing him with headphones on because a fun fact about Frey, well, I guess not fun fact, is that he is deaf. Not to be mistaken with the TH, but that he can't hear, sadly. But since he can't hear, you probably might be wondering, wait, then Gabriella, why are you drawing him with headphones and him listening to music? Well, those aren't exactly music listening headphones. I'm just going to say that. It's kind of foreshadowing for the second volume now that I think about it. But basically, Frey does have hearing aids, and by putting them on, he can hear more clear, opposed to being completely deaf where even hearing aids don't work. But there are these strange instances where it seems that every time Rhyelle talks, especially through this strange new power that she's developing as they go on on their quest to find these elemental crystals, he can sort of hear her. What could this mean? Well, we'll figure that out in the next volumes. Now I'm just quickly scribbling down his name and finishing the last pieces of this drawing. And now we're moving on to our last character in the first volume of Asphariens. Her name is Sue, and she is met a little bit earlier, not as early as Aki and Kira, but a little bit in the middle of the story, I'd say. So the gang first meets her when they're suddenly getting attacked by a group of Rhyelles, which, if you don't know, is the villains in the story, or I guess kind of the monsters. Not to elaborate too much on that, but that's the basic gist of who the Rhyelles are. And they first meet Sue when they're trying to fend them off, and suddenly this strange portal opens up, and then there's this girl dangling off of a tree while sitting down, and she's described to have apple green hair with hints of purple and large glasses. And that's the first introduction to Sue. And then Sue basically helps them by leading them through this magical portal, and that's how they enter into the magical city of Elenar, which is known as an elemental city, which means that it has unnatural kind of capabilities. And as you can see, I went back to fix Frey's eyes to make it look a little bit more like he was sleeping. Because it kind of looked like his eyes were open. But anyway, as you can see here, I'm drawing Sue, and the gang at first meets her when she leads them to Elenar, the city in the skies, which is home to humans with elemental air powers. Anyway, I'm just finishing up the drawing quickly, adding some hearts. Sue is more of the focus character. When the gang first meet her, she's a little bit more reserved, and she's very perceptive, so she tries to figure out more about people. But anyway, this is all I have for the Asphariens drawings. That's Chibi. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.